And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to Knockout Qualifying for our 9th race of the season here at the NNSCRA Hersheys Cup Series. We are live at the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway, our next Superspeedway stop since the Great American Race Daytona 500, our season opener. These drivers are getting ready here, 20 of them in total, to try and get the final 7 slots available for drivers trying to make the main event here today. As you'll see on the top left of your screen, basically everybody that took part in knockout qualifying last week is here in knockout qualifying this week. We have one more new addition to the list. That's the 05 of Joseph Srigley, who we'll show to you momentarily. As a matter of fact, well, no, I thought that might be him leaving pit road, but that's actually Cody Lamas with a new paint scheme on the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. So why don't we actually jump to the 20 car of Cody, since he is the first one on track. And you'll also notice on the bottom of your screen, these drivers are allotted 10 minutes for qualifying today. This may be a new thing that NNSCRA may mandate, where the qualifying clock may go up officially to 10 minutes for each race. We'll see how that plays out. They may just do it for the bigger racetracks. They had 10 minutes last week at Infineon, which was understandable because it was a road course, and very few teams would have been able to get a lap time in within the 5-minute allotted time that drivers have basically been given this entire season. The reason that NNSCRA mandated it being only 5 minutes, starting with Daytona and up until race 7, was basically because it would hurry drivers from just sitting on pit road and waiting out the clock. But they have allotted them a opportunity here for 10 minutes in this qualifying session, basically with the opportunity to be able to allow drivers to be able to bunch up into packs and be able to lay down some fast laps here. But only time will tell in the near future whether or not NNSCRA will be allowing 10 minutes each week, or whether this is just going to be something that's seemed to happen for 2 straight weeks. As Cody Lamas is on the clock. He took the green flag to start this lap. We'll see what he lays down. Running the GameStop look on his number 20 Toyota Camry out of Joe Gibbs Racing this week. And coming to the stripe, let's see what he's going to lay down for a lap time. And the first official lap of the day is a 49.603. So Cody Lamas, by himself, ran a 49.6. We'll have to see if anybody's able to get bunched up with any other drivers to be able to lay down laps. We just had a lap time laid down by Grayson Acavito. As a matter of fact, he, along with Kyle Matthews and Chris Dowd, have been able to all find each other, and that's going to help the 3 of them to lay down some fast lap times in their attempt to make the main event. Kyle Matthews, of course, last week, his streak of consecutive starts this season came to an end when he failed to make the race at Infineon last week. Chris Dowd, his streak could come to an end if he fails to make the show here today. Let's see what these 3 lay down for lap times this time by, as they are in a 3-car draft. Grayson Acavito ran a 48.2 last time. This time, 47.7. Kyle Matthews with a 47.8. James Qualls just jumped to the top. Who's he drafting with? He's drafting back here with Seth Cole, Sean Galligan, a couple of teammates out of Twinix Racing, as well as Joshua Michaels. So it may be these 4 and the 4 up ahead of them with Michael Norman, Chris Dowd, Grayson Acavito, and Kyle Matthews. These may be the drivers that are going to basically be settling it out unless anybody else has been able to manage to get into a group. Well, here's a group. Zachary Fitzwater, Joseph Srigley, who's trying to make his debut. Same for Zach Flickinger. They're in a group together. John Cittadino right now is working with Sam McMillan. They got Brandon Gonzalez trying to reel them in, become a 3-car pack. Dallas McIntosh running by himself right now. So is Austin Gipe. They've got to get bunched up here. Cody Lamas all by his lonesome, but he's maybe got some help coming in the form of Johnny Gardner and Matt McIntyre. Stephen Pollard III now getting reeled in by Chris Dowd, Grayson Acavito, and Kyle Matthews. He's maybe going to be able to merge with them, as Sean Galligan right now is the fastest on track. Chris Dowd's second. Then James Qualls. Joseph Srigley's now up to 4th. Fitzwater's 5th. 6th place Kyle Matthews. And Grayson Acavito would take the final transfer spot. For Stephen Pollard III, he needs to make this race because he right now came into this race, I believe, was 37th in the point standings. He's not yet in the top 35 in standings, and if he's going to have that victory he got at Texas count for anything towards a wild card spot, he needs to get into more races. See this time. Last time by he was 19th fastest, this time 16th fastest. That's not going to be enough to get him into the show, and Seth Cole just jumped to the top of the leaderboard. Seth Cole in this draft with Qualls, Norman, Michaels, and Galligan. And Zach Flickinger in the 01 just jumped up to second fastest on the charts with a 47.146. Right now he and Srigley are in the top 7. Fitzwater is 10th fastest. In this group up here, Galligan right now is in the top 7. So is Seth Cole, so is Joshua Michaels, and so is James Qualls. Michael Norman right now is 15th fastest. Let's see what his lap time is in this draft now. This time by. His fastest lap was a 47.9. This time, as Stephen Pollard III just jumped to the top of the board. This time for Norman, 47.114. He's now 4th fastest. In a matter of a lap, Seth Cole went from fastest on track to now the last one in a transfer position. SP3, currently the fastest on track with a 46.982. Grayson Acavito ran the second fastest, and Chris Dowd ran the third fastest. So this is the fastest pack on track right now, which is shocking with the fact there are 5 cars in this group, only 3 in the group up ahead. Don't count out that second group. Oh, wow. Johnny Gardner, Cody Lamas, and Matt McIntyre just jumped up to the top of the board. 46.8, 46.9 for that 3-car pack. At the line now, Seth Cole jumps up to the top with Sean Galligan again. Norman up to 5th. There's going to be a lot of jostling for position here. Right now, it's Cole, Galligan, McIntyre, Gardner, Norman, Lamas, and Pollard, who would all transfer in. But this is far from over. There's the fastest car on track right now. Seth Cole in the 52 made his second start of the season last week at Infineon, trying to make back-to-back starts. He's only raced Daytona and Infineon, so he at least got some experience at Daytona. And Johnny Gardner just jumped up to the top of the leaderboard. There he is, running behind Cody Lamas. They're actually 1-2 right now, are Gardner and Lamas, and they're about to maybe merge here with Austin Gipe, Dallas McIntosh. So maybe the 98 and the 16 can lay down some lap times to get in the top 7 if they can merge with this group. Right now, it's Johnny Gardner the fastest, Cody Lamas second fastest, and 4th fastest for Matt McIntyre. So right now, this 3-car group are all currently in the main event the way things stand at the moment. But things could certainly change. There's no doubt about that. We got about 1 minute and 3/4 left in this session. Let's see if they beat their lap time here. And nope, Cody ran about 0.2 slower. What about that other group? Stephen Pollard III. That's almost about 0.5 slower than his fastest lap. Same for Dowd, same for Acavito, who's now 12th fastest. Right now, Chris Dowd holds the final transfer spot. Stephen Pollard III is eliminated at this point. He's 8th fastest. This group's broken up a little bit. They just lost Sean Galligan, it would seem. I think he just came to pit road. Right now, he's 5th fastest, and I guess they're hoping that's going to hold up for him to be able to make the show. Let's see if anybody makes any last-ditch moves here. As right now, it's Gardner, Lamas, Cole, McIntyre, Galligan, Norman, and Dowd who would all make the race. With 45 seconds to go, this will be the last lap for many of these drivers. At the stripe, let's see if they produced enough speed. Did anyone jump up? Norman to the top of the leaderboard. He's up to 1st, but that didn't change anything. Norman was, I believe, 5th fastest before. He all he did was just jump to the top of the leaderboard, which guarantees him getting into the show probably, but it's still himself, Gardner, Lamas, Cole, McIntyre, Galligan, and Dowd, same as it was the lap before. This may be the last opportunity here for James Qualls and Joshua Michaels, who right now are 8th and 9th fastest on track. This is probably their last lap to be able to do something. Looks like Michael Norman is going to be going to pit road. Joshua Michaels is coming to pit road. So he just gave up an opportunity of making the race to Joshua Michaels. Can James Qualls make it in? Last minute effort. Here we go. Zeros on the clock, and he ran a faster time. He jumped up to 6th. Qualls jumped up to 6th, and Chris Dowd was just eliminated. At the last second, almost literally, James Qualls will be in, and Chris Dowd will miss his first race of the season. That should be it for this session. I don't think they're going to score any more lap times. Maybe I'm wrong. They're still running up here. Let's see if maybe they're still going to score some lap times here, but I would very much doubt it. I think we have our 7 drivers who are going to transfer. There's Dowd, who's just outside looking in. See if they score this lap time. And they will not. They will not score the lap. And Cole Gardner and Norman are coming to pit road. So Johnny Gardner, just at the last second, knocks Chris Dowd out of the top 7, and Dowd will score his first DNQ of the season. So Michael Norman transfers in. Johnny Gardner will be making his debut for Young Motorsports. Cody Lamas 3rd, Seth Cole in 4th. Matt McIntyre will also be making his Hersheys Cup Series debut, as he was 5th fastest. James Qualls and Sean Gallagher were the last 2 to transfer in. Drivers that will miss the race: Chris Dowd, Joshua Michaels, Stephen Pollard III. Man, he's got to make races if he's going to get himself up there in position for a wild card spot with that win he had a couple weeks ago. Also missing the race included Zach Flickinger, Grayson Acavito, Joseph Srigley will not make his first start. Dallas McIntosh, Kyle Matthews, 2nd straight week that he will not be in the main event. Also Zachary Fitzwater, Sam McMillan, John Cittadino, Brandon Gonzalez, and Austin Gipe all fail to make the race. So we have our 7 drivers that transfer into the Geico 500 here at Talladega. Let's get ready now for points racing at the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway coming up next. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to race number 9 of Season 1 of the NCRA Hersheys Cup Series. Since our Daytona 500 event, these drivers have not gotten their dosage of superspeedway racing. Well, we're going to remedy that here today as we're getting ready for 3-wide, maybe even 4-wide action at the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. 25 laps await us today, and we are getting ready to see if maybe, just maybe, the old adage of the restrictor plate track catering to the underdog will come true today. Maybe for a driver struggling in the points, maybe for a driver still looking for their first win of the season. We'll see what's going to go down here in this 25-lap event. Joshua Circuli has been one of the strongest drivers in the past couple of weeks. 3 weeks, 2 wins at Bristol, and last week at the road course of Infineon, and he starts on the pole for today's event. Circuli jumped up to 6th in the point standings with his 2nd win of the year last week, and he'll start off alongside another driver equally having as good a season, the 5 car of Joshua Lee, who comes into this race 7th in the point standings. But that's not the big news. This racetrack and many other restricted plate tracks, it usually comes down to every position counts. And no more so is that important than here today, because I actually had to do a couple of retakes, a couple of looks to see if I was seeing the points correctly coming into this race. The top 9 in points are separated by only 6 points. That's it. 6 points separating the top 9 in the standings. That's the closest we have had the point standings look since we left the season opener at Daytona. It is unbelievable that 9 races into the season, it is that close amongst the top 9 in the standings. But we're going to go through the starting lineup here, go through your top 10, and then we will show you the rest of the field, and then I'll fill you in on what the points advantage is for between each driver. But it's just unbelievable how close the points are getting this far into the season. As Joshua Circuli starts on the pole position, he's looking for his 3rd win of the year. Many drivers are still looking for their 2nd of the year, and many are still looking for their 1st of the year. Starting off alongside him, as I said, Joshua Lee. Seth Cole was actually the, I think, 2nd fastest in the knockout qualifying session, and he'll start in row 2 alongside of the fastest in knockout qualifying, Michael Norman, in the 3. Cody Lamas also had to race his way in via knockout Q, and he'll start on the inside of row 3 alongside of Austin LaPlante in the 51, who had a great run last week, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking last week was Sonoma. I apologize. Last week was Martinsville, and LaPlante actually had a great run at Martinsville, finished in second place. So I apologize. I meant to say 2 wins in the last 4 weeks for Joshua Circuli, but I digress. Going back to row 4, starting 7th is Rocco Twyman, who comes into this race 3rd in the point standings, only 3 points out. We'll get to the complete breakdown in just a moment. He'll line up alongside of Leon Alvarez, who, along with teammate Mason Powers, will be racing today without their teammate Chris Dowd, who for the first time this season failed to make the race. And then rounding out the last row is going to be William Brock in the 7. We haven't really seen much of him. He made an appearance in the top 10 early on the season. Things have kind of tapered off. He looks to get back on track, as does the driver starter alongside of him, Ryan Madden, who was up in the top 10 in points early on this season, and a number of poor finishes has dropped him all the way down. I believe he comes into this race 35th in the point standing, so he needs a good run to avoid having to be involved in knockout qualifying next week. Let's show you the rest of your starting lineup for today's race. As promised, I got to swapping some paint schemes around, so you're not going to have a lot of drivers run the same schemes they've run for the past 2 weeks. 2 drivers are making their debuts here today in Hersheys Cup Series competition. Johnny Gardner in the number 12 Dodge Dart for Young Motorsports, and also Matt McIntyre in the number 8 Chevrolet. They will both be getting a taste of Talladega racing as Hershey Cup Series racing in today's event. So, without further ado, we're going to go down trackside. We're going to get the command to fire the engines, and then we'll fill you in on all you need to know as far as how close the points are coming into today's event. Let's go down trackside.
Drivers, start your engines.
Alright, as we fire them up and get ready to go, last week, I can only take and do points in my head and hope I come out correct. And last week, the way I thought the points were going to look, I thought it was going to be Tim Walsh by 1 point over JT Bryant heading into today's event. Well, I could have not been more wrong. Here's the breakdown of the top 10 coming into today's race in the points. We have a new points leader atop the standings. I was correct in that, but it is not Tim Walsh. It is Keon Eddington in the 33. He holds a 2-point advantage over James Richardson, who is now 2nd in the standings. Rocco Twyman is now 3rd in points. He's 3 points out. 4th in the standings is actually a 3-way tie between Jeremy Jones, JT Bryant, and our current pole sitter, Joshua Circuli. They are all 5 points back. So that's 1st through 6th. 7th place is actually a tie between 3 drivers, Joshua Lee, Tim Walsh, and Jake Baskinger. Those 3 are only 6 points back. And then 10th in the standings, 25 points back. So it's a huge jump back to 10th in the standings. But that is Pichu London, who starts today's race in dead last. So, that's the way it's situated as far as the top 10. Right now, if the chase were to start at this current point in time, the 2 wildcard spots would actually be held by 2 former race winners of this season. Noah Kars, our winner last week at Martinsville, is 14th in the points, so he would take wildcard spot number 1, and Ryan Acosta is 19th in the points standings. Our Daytona 500 winner would take wildcard spot number 2. That's the way the chase would look if the season, regular season that is, were to end right now. But we're only in race number 9. We've still got 17 more races after this before we have our 10-race chase for the championship. So a lot of stuff can happen in that amount of time, especially when you're at a track as unpredictable as Talladega Superspeedway. So it will be an all-Joshua front row. Joshua Circuli and Joshua Lee. One looking for his 3rd win of the season, one looking for his 1st win of the season. And they will lead him down here out of the trioval. The start-finish line at Daytona is about right there, but the start-finish line at Talladega is a few hundred feet further down, which could be the deciding factor into who's going to be the winner and who's going to be the runner-up here today. But here we go. The green flag for the Geico 500 at Talladega Superspeedway is out. We're green. Already looking 3 wide back there. And with this kind of Talladega Superspeedway we're at, folks, expect to see 3 wide racing several rows deep. Remember how it was in our Daytona 500? You can expect the exact same kind of racing here today at Talladega Superspeedway. And these kind of restrictor plate tracks, which have the speedway physics, are super draft reliant, believe me. Coming out of turn 4, Joshua Circuli will get a well-needed bonus point as he's trying to take over the points lead. Cody Lamas looking to the inside of Seth Cole, has to think better of it, and the first lap of the day will be led by the number 27 of Joshua Circuli. And we are going to complete the first lap under green. Seth Cole says, all right, you've led your lap. Now I'm going to go and take a turn at the front. Seth Cole trying to make his way into the top 35 in points. This only his third start of the season. He raced the Daytona 500. He raced last week at Infineon. This is his third start of the season. So he's made both restrictor plate races, but he may not get to lead a lap. Here comes Cody Lamas to the bottom with help from Austin LaPlante. LaPlante last week was unable to run down Noah Cars for the win at Martinsville. He's looking for some sweet redemption today as he's trying to get up here to the front and maybe get to the lead. He pushed Cody Lamas to the top position, and it looks like he will follow behind him coming to the stripe, so Cody Lamas will lead a lap. That's a valuable bonus point for him as he's outside the top 35 in points. LaPlante now jumps to the high side. Joshua Lee goes by for second. Michael Norman will move by for third. And I see the 42 of last week's winner, Noah Cars, starting to work his way up there. He's now going to go 3 wide back there with Levi McIntyre. William Brock is up front. Joshua Lee steps out of line on Cody Lamas. Drafting help from Michael Norman, and the Quicken Loans Chevrolet will now go to the front. I almost just said the name of the team that the 5 car is out of, and I just lost it. Boy, that drives me crazy when that happens. And Joshua Lee will lead a lap. The way that rolled off the tongue was really weird. Joshua Lee will lead a lap. It made me want to go, Joshua Lee will lead a. I don't know why. Don't ask me. Anyway, professionalism. Top 4 are single file. Well, not anymore. Michael Norman now steps out of line. Will anybody go with him, though? John Arndt now dives low, and that may be the drafting help Michael Norman needs to get to the inside, and it indeed is. Michael Norman, another driver, much like Cody Lamas, who's outside the top 35 in points. Every point matters to him to try and get back into the top 35 and not have to keep constantly, week after week, trying to qualify his way into these events. And John Arndt going to the front. You know, a little interesting thing here is they're 4 wide back there. Oh my goodness. And they settled it out to 3 wide. Wow, for a brief moment they were 4 wide. But I think it was McIntyre, Emmanuel Hartnett, Cody Lamas, and Joshua Lee, but they settled it out. But going to the 24 and the 38, those are 2 drivers out of AS Racing that almost picked up the victory for one of them for their team at the season opener at Daytona. It was Ryan Acosta that thwarted it. The 24 and 38 of John Arndt and Carson Scott had to finish 2nd and 3rd. They're looking for sweet redemption as they got an opportunity here at another restrictor plate track. Carson Scott, it's interesting. I think AS Racing right now are the bookends of this field. They were for a brief moment. John Arndt was out in front, and I saw Carson Scott way at the tail end of the field in dead last. And here comes last week's winner, Noah Cars to the inside, looking for his 2nd win in a row, which would tie him with Joshua Circuli for most wins this season with 2. Doesn't look like he's going to get to enjoy much time out in front, though. Here comes Emmanuel Hartnett to the inside, 3 wide. Charles Sanford looked like he was getting a little anxious to maybe go 4 wide. Thinks better of it, sticks in line, and rides behind Emmanuel Hartnett to the front. Johnny Gardner started near the back there. The Young Motorsports entry, the Detroit number 12 Dodge Dart. He's now made his way to the front. Daniel Bouchard in the 4 also started near the rear of the field. So we're starting to see the wave of drivers that started near the rear of the field now making their way to the front. As lap 6 is complete, lap 7 goes on the board. One driver I did notice that's at the rear of the field, and normally at a track like this, that's not a big deal, but that's the points leader, Kian Eddington. First time this season, he's been the points leader, and he's running at the back right now with JT Bryant. So a couple of drivers that are running well in the point standings, deciding to kind of ride at the back here, see what happens. And I think these drivers are at some point going to have to make pit stops too. If this thing goes into a long green flag run, I don't think they can make it the full 25 laps on 1 tank of fuel, so keep that in mind as well. And on more than one occasion, I've seen drivers at Talladega be able to run clean and green for a number of laps, and then when they have to make pit stops, things get stacked up, and that's when we end up having our caution. So that could be another reason why we see drivers riding at the back. I'm seeing some Tweenix Racing teammates have hooked up. Trent Dunham, Sean Galligan, the 1 and the 13. Galligan had to race his way into today's event in knockout qualifying, and also seeing there, our Daytona 500 winner, Ryan Acosta, is starting to fight his way to the front. Benjamin Miles taking a peek to the inside on Johnny Gardner. Certainly no rookie when it comes to his experience in NR, but in this series, he is the more inexperienced driver with the fact that this is only his first start of the season. A number of these drivers have raced the full 9 races up to this point, and Benjamin Miles, who's been on quite a hot streak as of late, he hit a bit of a bump in the road last week at Martinsville, but he'll get to lead a lap. Now he jumps to the high side because here comes the Furniture Row Chevrolet of Ryan Acosta. There was a lot of talk about whether or not Furniture Row Racing was going to move over to a Toyota, but as you can see, I think they're pretty satisfied with the equipment they've got in that Chevrolet. Speaking of Chevrolet, he can look to his left and see another Chevrolet to his inside. That is Dylan Poteet going for the lead. Oh, man! Rocco Twyman nearly got wrecked by Matt McIntyre, was on the apron, and how they held on to that, I have no idea. What a save by the 11 after contact between himself and Matt McIntyre, who's making his Hersheys Cup Series debut here today. And look at Pichu London. Started dead last, and where was he scored last time by? 11th place. So he's worked his way to the front. Dylan Poteet has said sayonara to the field for the moment. Opens up a bit of a gap between himself and the new second place car. That's Jeremy Jones in the 18. Everybody's going to take a turn out in front here today. That's the kind of Talladega Superspeedway this is. 10 laps will be complete when Dylan Poteet crosses the line. And I'm seeing a number of Tweenix drivers up here at the front. And I said they were going to have to make pit stops. Here we go. Are they going to make it onto pit road without wrecking each other? That's the question. Some drivers, I think, did stay out. Pichu London stayed out. Tristan Folk stayed out. And those might have been the only 2. Yes, they were. Let's jump to our pit lane camera, as a number of drivers have already jumped into their pit stalls. A number of others happen to come all the way down this pit lane at 55 miles per hour before they can get to their pit stalls. Now, they made it 10 laps, which means maybe, just maybe, if this thing continues green all the way to the end, they may have to pit again. They made it 10 laps, and Norman, whoa, look out! Oh, man, I think Emmanuel Hartnett may have missed his pit stall. Unless he had a pit stall further back, but I'm not certain. And who's the car just crossed there? That's Leon Alvarez. Alvarez might have pitted a lap earlier. Whoa! Kian Eddington, Holden Gluba, and John Art nearly made some contact there, and a rather extended stay for Joshua Circuli, but he'll get out with the rest of the field. Pichu London and Tristan Folks are now on the pit lane. There's the 21, 17 just ahead. And they'll complete their service. And it looks like after things cycle out, Emmanuel Hartnett may be the leader. Now, I'm not certain if the 83 was just swerving to avoid the 3 coming out of his pit stall, or if he missed his pit. Although I think Hartnett qualified mid-pack, and so he probably had already made his pit stop. So I think he did make his pit stop. He's good to go. There's Pichu London. There's Tristan Folks. So yes, indeed, after the cycle of pit stops is over, Emmanuel Hartnett will be the leader. Battles on for second. Tim Walsh will take the spot from Sean Galligan, moving him back to third. 4th place for Jeremy Jones. 5th, Michael Norman. How about Leon Alvarez? I'm pretty certain he pitted 1 lap earlier than everybody else. And as a result, he's now up to the 6th spot. 7th is Benjamin Miles. 8th would be Dylan Poteet. 9th, Trent Dunham. And completing your top 10, well, that's under contest right now. Ryan Acosta has it. Charles Sanford wants it. Give it time, and these drivers will all bunch back up. They split up. But unlike a lot of restrictor plate tracks that we go to, where it seems like you have a pack of cars, and then another pack of cars, and then another pack of cars, and nobody seems to be able to make progress on anyone, with the fact that we're at a track that has speedway physics, we are going to see one group be able to run down another group, and that's going to help be able to have more drivers in the hunt for this win when we get into the closing stages of this race. And Tim Walsh to the lead. Sean Galligan into second. Emmanuel Hartnett now drops back to third. And there you can see Jeremy Jones, Michael Norman, Leon Alvarez, Benjamin Miles. They're staying in a tight draft. They're starting to reel in the top three. If we were at any other kind of version of Talladega, more than likely you wouldn't see them closing up the gap this fast, which is why I like the speedway physics at the super speedways. Man, they're coming in a hurry. Where are they going to go with this momentum when they reach them? They're going to have to find somewhere to go. They are in a tight draft going 207 at the line. They were 1.7 seconds back last time. They're only about 0.6 back this time. And hello, they're on the back door, and my goodness. Sean Galligan tried to throw a block. He very nearly wrecked himself. And now we got 7 drivers up here in this top group. Next group that's going to try and catch them is back here, 8th on back. There's a big bunch of cars back here. You got Matt McIntyre, Ryan Acosta, Cody Lamas, Charles Samper, Mason Powers, Trent Dunham, William Brock, Dylan Young, his teammate Johnny Gardner, Rocco Twyman, and Levi McIntyre. Now the leader of this group, the last time by, was Charles Samper. They were just a little under 5 seconds back. Let's see how quickly they closed up the gap this time. Any other track, we might see him get down to about 4 seconds. I'll guarantee it'll be less than that this time. At the stripe, wow, I'm surprised. They only closed it up by about 0.4. I thought for certain we were going to see them close it up maybe to about 3.5 seconds, but not just yet. This group is the second group. Here's the third group with James Qualls, Cooper Cyron, Daniel Bouchard, Jake Baskinger, Pichu London, Carson Scott, and Daniel Voiles, as well as Tristan Folks. Noah Cars has actually lost the draft. He might be able to latch onto the tail end of these guys. Oh, well, maybe not. He's quite a ways back. Last week's winner not running so good. Maybe he'll fall into the clutches of this group, be able to get back up to speed. Got Jessica Shelton back here with Blaine Keys, Austin LaPlante, and JT Bryant. That's 29th back through 32nd. And you got Ryan Madden, 33rd. Points leader coming to this race is 34th. Kean Eddington, John Art, 35th. Anthony McCurry, 36th. Joshua Lee, who's starting the outside of the front row all the way back in 37th. 38th place, Mason Wood. 39th, Seth Cole, who's going to lose that spot to second in points. James Richardson, who's having a struggling run right now. Right now scored 39th. Seth Cole back to 40th. 41st is Holden Gluba. And, oh my goodness, Joshua Circuli, the pole sitter and points leader, is all the way back in dead last without draft. That is a horrible situation for the 27 car. And it remains about status quo. Wait a minute, there were 7 drivers up in this lead pack before. Where did that other driver go? Oh, there he is, Dylan Poteet. He must have lost the lead group or something, and he's dropped all the way back here. Now at the tail end of this second pack. I wonder what happened with the 31. Oh, I don't like the way this looks. Oh, man. Levi McIntyre, William Brock rubbing doors. And for a brief moment, they looked like they were going to go 4 wide. Oh, no. Oh, no. My goodness. Dylan Young just barely squeezing in front of Levi McIntyre. Thank you, Levi McIntyre, for letting him in. That could have been a wreck as well. You guys are racing pretty crazy back here in this second pack, and it's not helping their case for running down the lead pack. They got to get themselves single file, start producing some speed rather than racing each other. They're losing ground rather than gaining ground. And Emmanuel Hartnett was just on pit road again. Are they getting their final pit stops done now? Hartnett was up in the lead group at one point. That might have actually been why Dylan Poteet lost the draft. Maybe Hartnett came to pit road and Poteet had to slow to avoid him. Let's see, are they coming to pit road this time, or the leaders? And no, they're not. So I'm not certain why Hartnett came to pit road so soon. But now he falls a lap down. And these leaders are about to reel in the points leader coming into this race, Joshua Circuli. We have 6 drivers up in this lead pack. Out of these 6, only one of them has been to victory lane so far this season. That's the 15 of Tim Walsh. 2 of these drivers come into this race outside the top 35 in points. The 3 of Norman, the 13 of Galligan. Benjamin Miles has had a couple of good runs this season. Last week was a bit of a staggering race for him. He's trying to recover today. Jeremy Jones, right now, along with Tim Walsh, are the only two in the top 10 in points, running well, and oh boy, they're having some trouble getting around Joshua Circuli. Tim Walsh on the high side will clear Circuli. That puts him a lap down. The only problem for Tim Walsh is, though, he did not lose Benjamin Miles, Sean Galligan, and the others. And Circuli now will be able to merge with this group. He is up to speed, but we're going to have 5 to go when we hit the stripe. And these drivers, I'm pretty certain, are going to have to pit at least one more time. I don't think they can make it the rest of the way on fuel. I'd be very surprised if they could. They pitted on lap 10. Top 3 have been able to get around Joshua Circuli. Michael Norman now trying to get around him. And here we go, Benjamin Miles. He'll peel off for pit road. Sean Galligan coming as well. So this is the money stop. This is the stop that's going to decide who's going to win this race more than likely, or even who's going to be in contention to win this race. So Tim Walsh, Jeremy Jones, Michael Norman, they decide to stay out. They'll probably come to pit road this lap unless one of them decides, gets the idea in his head to maybe stay out an extra lap. Here comes Jeremy Jones. Gets a big run down the back straightaway there, as you can see, and that wasn't even in the draft of Tim Walsh. He was getting clean air. On the back bumper now of the 5-Hour Energy Chevrolet, and I believe we'll probably see these two coming to pit road this time, and it looks like they're both decreasing speed, and they're coming to pit road. Michael Norman is also coming. Manuel Hartnett already pitted, so he'll stay out. And there are some drivers risking it at this point. Jake Baskinger in the 95 was one of them, and it will be easier for me to actually just manually get to him. I hate to have to do that. So Baskinger leads. He stayed out. Daniel Voiles moves to second. Third place, Pichu London, who, remember, ended up pitting about one lap later than everybody else anyway, and so did Tristan Folk. So they moved to third and fourth. They're the only 4 drivers still left to pit. And how ironic, 3 of them are Fords. One's a Mercedes-Benz, which is kind of on a Ford base. And I'll be surprised if anybody stretches it one extra lap, but we'll see. These 4 coming to pit road this time. Baskinger is coming, as is Voiles, as is Folks, as is London. So with about 4 laps to go, 3 when whatever leader hits the stripe, who is going to be in contention for this win? It's come down to fuel strategy here in a caution-free race at Talladega. Baskinger. Looks like it's going to be gas and go. He's going to get down away. Voiles, London, Folks. Those 4 will come out all together. The driver they've got to worry about is Tim Walsh. Where is Tim Walsh at when they come off pit road? He's already bypassing them. So there's your leader, Tim Walsh. Benjamin Miles is there. Sean Galligan is there. And Jeremy Jones is going to reel them in as well. Leon Alvarez is trying to catch up. Don't know if he'll have enough time. Joshua Circuli still a lap down. They got Norman, Sanford, McIntyre, and Ryan Acosta. Can these drivers work together and catch up to the top 3, or top 4 that is? They're racing double wide. If these guys can line up, they could reel them in. They've got enough time. They just cannot step out of line on each other. Alvarez has to be the engine, and they have to be a train, and they are not doing that. This is not going to help them. 2 to go at the line. And Hartnett's going to prove as a problem as they reeled him in, and Benjamin Miles goes to the lead. Leon Alvarez is 2 seconds back from this group. And they are slowly catching, but they may run out of time. They didn't get lined up and stay lined up, and that could be their downfall. Well, wait a minute. They're producing quite a bit of speed down the back straightaway. It may not be over yet, folks. And Jeremy Jones just took the lead from Benjamin Miles. Galligan to second, Walsh to third. We still may have a race on our hands here on this final lap. Because look at the 9 of Alvarez. He's bringing a train with him. But do they have enough time to catch him? I think they might. Top 3, single file. Jeremy Jones, Sean Galligan, Tim Walsh. White flag displayed one more time around. Here comes Alvarez, Norman, Sanford. They've caught up. Oh my goodness, someone could make a move here if they get a big enough run down the back straightaway. Look at Benjamin Miles there in fourth. He's got a gap between himself and Sanford. If he can get a big run here, will someone step out of line on Jeremy Jones? Here comes Tim Walsh to the inside. Help from Benjamin Miles. Galligan has to give way. Miles looking 3 wide. He's going to go 3 wide for second. Jeremy Jones gets out to a huge lead. That may not be such a good thing if Miles can get a big run out of the tri-oval. Here we go, through the tri-oval. Benjamin Miles trying to get the run on the Snickers Toyota. Through the exit of the tri-oval, Miles tries to close the gap, not close enough. Jeremy Jones will capture his first win of the season, winning the Geico 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. And I'm trying to think here. I believe that is Toyota's second win of the season. But for some reason, my memory is failing me as to who our first winner in a Toyota this season was. I actually got to look at the points here to be able to figure it out. I apologize for that. No, that might be actually our first Toyota winner. And actually it is. That's our first Toyota winner of the season. So a tremendous run for Jeremy Jones. The Joe Gibbs racing cars have really been good in the last few weeks. And you knew it was just going to be a matter of time before one of them went to victory lane. And Jeremy Jones, who came into this race 4th in the points, 5 points out. I don't know. We could be having another new points leader. Benjamin Miles, that's the second, or they make that third runner-up finish he has had this season so far. His other two ended up taking place at Infineon and Bristol, both to Joshua Circuli. So he has come up short 3 times already this season. Leon Alvarez, great run for him in 3rd. Tim Walsh in 4th. And how about Charles Sanford? A little bit of a late charge to the front there. Gets a top 5 in 5th place. Michael Norman, still trying to get in the top 35 in points. Maybe after today's run, he'll be there. 6th place run for him. Ryan Acosta, not bad restricted plate numbers right now. 1st place at Daytona, 7th place here today at Talladega. Sean Galligan also maybe has worked his way into the top 35 in points with 8th place run. How about Matt McIntyre in his debut today? 9th place run for him. And Daniel Bouchard works his way to the 10th position. He's a driver who actually also, much like as I mentioned earlier with Ryan Madden, was pretty close to maybe falling outside of the top 35 in points. So this 10th place run may help him get back away from that cutoff line. Mason Powers there in 11th. Pretty good runs there for the 9, the 44 after their teammate Chris Dowd fails to make the race. So good run for the 2 entries out of CJ Racing. Trent Dunham gets 12th. Johnny Gardner in his debut, he gets 13th place. Dylan Young 14th, and Dylan Poteet will finish the day in the 15th position. He was up front for a while. How about Noah Cars? Remember we mentioned that he was way back there without draft? He was able to battle back there, was last week's winner from Martinsville, to a 17th place finish. Rocco Twyman, 3rd in points. He finished the race in 20th place. Jake Baskinger, who came into the race 9th in points, only 6 points out. He finishes 23rd. Pichu London, 10th in points, finishes 25th. As far as other drivers who had bad runs today, you got Kian Eddington, came in as the points leader. I think this will be his 1 week as points leader. I think he's going to lose that to Jeremy Jones after a 30th place run today. JT Bryant came into this race 5 points out, 5th in the standings. He finishes in 31st. James Richardson came in 2nd in points, only 2 points behind Kian Eddington. He finishes in 34th today. And Joshua Lee and Joshua Circuli, those two are going to take some pretty hard hits in the standings. Circuli finishing a lap down in 42nd, came into the race 6th in points, 5 points out. And Joshua Lee came into the race 7th in the point standings, 6 points out. The front row finished in 40th and 42nd in today's race. So, this is the finishing results from today's race. Jeremy Jones becomes the first winner for Toyota this season, capturing his first win of the season as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's race, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and become a part of the crew. Next week, we're going to be packing it up and heading to Kansas. So that should be pretty interesting. We've had some pretty good races at Las Vegas. We had a pretty good race at, yeah, I just lost it. There was another mile and a half we went to that was similar, but I can't remember what it is. But it doesn't really matter. I'm getting old. Can't blame me. Anyway, we hope that you'll tune in next week for Kansas Speedway as we will be reaching our 10-race mark of the season. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's race from Talladega Superspeedway, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to become a part of the crew today. Once more, we'll show you your full finish results from today's event. We went green flag racing all the way with 2 rounds of green flag pit stops, and in the end, it was Jeremy Jones beating out Benjamin Miles for today's win in the Geico 500. Once again, we'll see you next week at Kansas Speedway for knockout qualifying and your main event, as you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA, offline racing at its best.